What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to the Contractor Secrets Podcast. In this episode, I sit down with Richard Gould, owner and CEO of Richard's Painting franchise. And oh man, what a great conversation. I think that I tend to lean toward a franchise model in terms of the way that I teach systems. And for you to be able to package up something that's working and hand somebody that package for them to enjoy the fruits of that operation, it makes for such great conversation. But one thing I will say about this is that although Richard has done this his way, there's multiple ways to do the painting business. So that was what was most intriguing about this conversation. So tune in. This is a good one. You're going to definitely get some value out of sitting in on this conversation. The big question you need to ask yourself every day is, do I own a job or do I own a business? And unfortunately, the majority of contractors out there own a job. That's right, they're a slave to their own business. But the other side of the fence is so much greener, it's so much better, and that's when you're finally fully in control of your destiny, your freedom, your time. And that's what Contractor Secrets is about. It's about taking back our time, building a business with systems, standards, values, procedures, putting yourself in the driver's seat. And that's what it's about. So I'm excited. I'm happy to have you here. Let's dive into the Contractor Secrets Podcast. What's going on, everyone? Welcome to the Contractor Secrets Podcast. Very special guest here. I have Richard, the CEO of the Richard's Painting franchise. I have so many questions, and I think I don't even think we're gonna be able to fit them all in. So let's just get started, man. Welcome to the show. I guess the first question, Richard, is owning a franchise, man. Tell us what that dynamic's like. I think that just give us a brief synopsis of what it's like to own a franchise, and how. Give me an idea how it works to own a painting franchise.
Well, currently it's terrible, but we're working on, starting a franchise just like starting any business.
Okay.
It takes momentum, it takes money, it takes time, it takes effort. And unlike painting, you have to convince people that what you're selling is something that they can take and also duplicate, and until you have 5, 10, 15, 20, locations where people are doing well, it makes it hard to sell. And so currently, I have 2. We're about to sign up 1 more in Florida.
Nice.
And really, just like painting, you're selling yourself. You're selling what you do. What is that you offer that somebody else doesn't. And especially my business model is so unique compared to every other painting franchise out there that it makes it hard to convince people, hey, this is better.
Right. It's the employee model, isn't it?
Yes, exactly. Yep. Yes. And everybody's scared of that because all they see is, high cost.
How am I going to keep my guys busy? High cost. And if you balance it out, you and I both know that it's usually more expensive to have subcontractors, isn't it?
Listen, I've tried the sub route before, and nothing.
You don't have to convince me, man. I know.
It is. Look, those guys out there, I feel bad.
They're not loyal.
No, well, it's not even that they're not loyal. They're not creative enough to know how to do it on themselves, and they get stuck in this realm of working for people who are taking advantage of them. So I actually feel bad for them, because nobody ever teaches them how to paint. They just say, paint this. Never, how do you do it? It's just like paint it. And when they don't do it right, they're like,
the standards a lot lower with subs. I'm a huge proponent of the employee model. It's harder. There's more risk because you can just write off your sub. If you don't have work, hey dude, sorry, no work this week. Find it from somebody else. You can't do that with employees. No. So you actually have to have a marketing system, a sales structure. So at one point you had more than 2 franchises, yes?
Oh yeah. So I have locations.
Locations.
Also, like my own.
Locations. So you have your own locations, and then you're franchising that. Tell me about that.
Correct. Yeah. So the locations again are it takes time. To be successful in anything, you don't just walk in and be like, oh well, here we are. It takes time to develop. Especially when we are selling a premium product, just like yourself. It takes time to develop those customers because trying to get somebody. educated and trying to get people who really are not looking for 5 estimates. If I walk into an estimate, I know they're getting 5 or 6 estimates, I just might as well just walk out the door,
Yeah.
because
What are
unless
you looking
I'm,
for?
it's like they're looking for the
They're
cheapest price,
scared.
obviously. Yeah.
Yeah, and they're scared and they're skeptical.
And no matter how great of a salesman you are, no matter how great of the product you're selling, if you tell somebody, hey, my price is 10 grand and and everybody else is 5, I don't know how you can sell that
Yeah,
to somebody. Now
justify that difference.
obviously if you can be 10 and somebody else is 7,500, 8 grand, I can
You can
prove my
close that
value.
gap. I call that
Exactly,
the
exactly,
expectation gap. So that's like the gap
exactly.
in between, and the only way to close that is value. And there's only so much value,
Yes.
that you can,
Yes. and then and
I'll
then
wash your car every Friday if we
that's
can get
right.
from 8 grand to 12 grand. But we offer that.
100%.
So
Yeah.
but I know what you mean, man. And I really like the dynamics. So kind of take me through this. So, you start your business, you come up with this system, right? And then from a system that you have with one location, the next step before franchising is the smart move would be to have multiple locations, because you're kind of testing the theory under your own umbrella, right?
Correct.
Before you give this system to somebody else. I have a very challenging question for you, and I'm sure that you get this. And this is just a question that me as a regular person would have. If I could start my own painting business for free, well,
Hmm.
very low cost to start a painting
Sure.
business. You don't
Oh
need
yeah.
a lot of painting business don't need a shop or even a van. And I started my painting business out of a Honda Accord.
Sure.
Why? What's the justification for not only the startup cost, but the I believe there's a royalty charge as well that
Correct.
comes along with
Correct.
it as well. So how do you justify that?
Well, I mean, it comes down to the system. What you're selling is a business model that is ready to go.
That's
Now, what you
proven.
had to do starting out of your Honda was like, hey, I'm going to put this ladder on the top of my truck with some rags and some stuff and try to get down the highway and hope it doesn't fall off the top. Right.
Right.
So for us, you're saying, okay, we've already got that established. You're going to start with a van. You're going to get this equipment. You're going to do this. You're going to do that. Now, how are you going to market yourself? How are you
Right.
going to do an estimate? So it's the whole process. It's like you're buying something ready to go, and there's a value in that. Now obviously anybody can start. I mean, you can start a burger place. You can start anything. Anybody can go
Great
do anything,
analogy,
right?
man.
You know what I mean? And so like it's more about and a lot of people are looking for franchises are people who a lot of them have been in corporate world or a whole totally different segment. So when they say painting, they're like, I don't even know how to paint. And then that's big. Do I have to paint? Is always the question. Do I need to paint? And for us, part of the model is yes, you need to learn.
I love
We
that.
don't want people to be obviously a franchise doesn't work if you only want people who want to work all the time.
Right.
People want franchises so they can sit back a little bit and say, hey, I own a painting business and I've got making this much money
They're
and
looking
I got these
for
guys working.
they're looking
Yeah,
for a machine.
correct.
Most people.
So to justify the franchise is more about what is the value I'm providing to you to help that business run smoother, quicker, and get right to the top
Get up and
from the
going
beginning.
fast. Okay.
Exactly.
Got it.
Exactly.
Got
So,
it.
I mean, it's like, yeah, just like me. I was working for somebody for 7 or 8 years. I bought the business from him.
Yep.
He retired. And I started out, I was like, man, this is great. I mean, I started out the top. I didn't even have to start my way from the bottom. I mean,
You
although the
had
7
the
or 8
phone
years.
number, you had the branding, and
Oh,
and
yeah.
now let me ask you this. Now, in
Yeah.
terms of I've spoken with a few franchisees, never with the CEO of a franchise of a painting company yet. You're my first. I'm very humbled and honored to have you here because I really want to pick your brain on a couple things. But there was some pushback from a very, very popular, I will not name names, but a very popular painting franchise of this
Yep.
franchisee. And he said he hardly has any corporate, I would say, aid, corporate help, corporate support. Um, After they do the initial franchise, training, this process looks like, and then it's kind of like, okay, we'll do some light marketing for you. We'll answer the phones for you. You're on your own.
Yeah.
What do you say? What do you say to that? What
I'm
is
disappointed.
your,
I'm disappointed.
Yeah.
I mean, the whole point of buying into a franchise, if I was buying into a franchise, I would expect, hey, I'm paying you every month, I'm paying a percentage of my sales for you to help me,
Right.
so for us, it's more about, to me, I'm only as successful as you are. So
Right.
if I don't help you become successful and help you continue to grow,
Right.
then we're never going to be successful.
Right.
So
Right.
for me, it's helping you from the first day until you decide you want to retire and sell that franchise to somebody else.
Right.
So
Wow.
yeah, so the corporate part to me is the most important part. Without the back end, how are you going to do your part? So
Right. And I'm
yeah,
sure they
that's
have,
disappointing.
I'm sure at this level, even though you're sort of small in the grand scheme of things, they have your number on speed dial,
Oh gosh, yes,
if
yes.
there's an issue, and I'm sure you
Yeah,
jump in it. So it's interesting because, a lot of like there's levels, right? So I mean, there's some contractors that are still painting and can't see further than just the painting. I mean, I spend a large majority of my time helping these individuals start thinking about systems and getting out of the brush, right? Now you've created
sure.
a system. You light years past where I am. I'll tell you where I am in my painting business right now. I have 2 crews of 4.
Yep,
The system. I have a supervisor at the top, so I have this package that
yep.
I easily could franchise if that was an idea. And in terms of franchise, I just mean that I could teach someone exactly what I did, teach them how I hire people, teach them every detail. Now, let me ask you this. Was there a point in time where you literally just got a piece of paper out, right? And you pretty much said, okay, this is how we hire people. This is how we find work. These are the prices of which that we do work. These are the types of jobs that we're going to do. This is how we, interact with our customers. Like, how detailed is this playbook that you essentially package up and hand to somebody?
It's detailed to the point of the basics,
Okay.
because you can't teach these things in a book. If you're always referencing back, like, how do I look at this room, and you're like, oh, the book says you do it this way. So what we try to do is give you an outline, and then say, okay, because every situation is different. Even the guys
Got it.
that work for me, their biggest complaint forever is like, well, today you said do it this way, and then tomorrow you're going to tell me to do it that way, because
Everything's
every
changing.
every job, you can paint the same 2 rooms in somebody's house, and they're both unique. Because yes, there's basic rolling up and down, cutting
Right.
left and right,
Right.
whatever that might be. But hey, this room costs $1,000 and this one costs 500, and their
Yeah.
expectations for this room are way different than they are for this room. So
Yeah.
you
This one's
have
got
to
wool carpet on the bottom that needs to be
exactly.
vacuum sealed before we.
Yeah. So you have, so we, in our business. So what I try to do is, in every location is going to be different. Like, what might be happening in Florida may not be working here in North Carolina, or
Right.
if you're in, like, originally I'm from New Jersey, that
So,
market is way different.
me
So
too.
it's, so you have to dictate what your approach is to different markets, and
So it
you might have the
sounds like it's
same.
keep it simple.
Exactly. I mean, it's the sim to me. I try to give everybody the outline, and then we work with your personality. How do
Yeah.
what works for you, and let's try to figure
Yeah.
out how to make that you the most successful.
So do you have a corporate team, or are you still in that phase of
Hold on, let
growth
me look.
where,
No, no,
okay, is
no.
that, is that, is that in the works? I mean, do you feel like you're at a
Yes, I
point
mean,
where
but
you need a team to help you with this, or because you have your own painting business, right? So,
yes, yes,
I mean, and
yes.
you
So
look
I mean,
very
it's
relaxed. So
yeah. I mean,
things are
so
happening today that you're relaxed. What does the system in your own business right now look like? Who's in charge? What does that structure look like?
well, I mean, I'm still in charge.
Okay.
I mean, at the end of the day, I still make all the decisions.
Sure.
But I have, I do all the sales. I
Okay.
still have, I mean, I have our other location, Taylor, super talented, really good guy. And I wish we were at a point, having leaders and having sales and having all these things requires money,
Right.
and what your sales are. Let's say we average $1 million a year, in
Sure.
this location, so now you have to justify, if you're going to pay somebody $75,000 a year to do sales plus bonus. And now, okay, so now you divide that down, all the way. How do you justify that cost?
Right.
So for me, hey, do I want to say, am I willing to work harder or a little bit more to bring that money to myself? Or am I willing to put it out there to grow in different directions?
Right.
So, currently, so my choice was, hey, I'm going to expand by locations and make sure that business model works, and put somebody else in charge of those. While here, this location here brings in all the money. Like
That's the hub.
and it's where this makes everything happen. So I have to
Sure.
protect what's going
Understood.
on here.
Protecting the
You don't
home base.
exactly. So
Gotcha.
until we're to the point where, okay, because the sales, I mean, like, when you work, when you're working in a small area and you're working in a demographic where you have to sell and you're trying to get money at
You need that ratio to be high.
Oh gosh, yeah. And 2 years ago, we were, we had our record sales. We were doing great. Well, we lost a couple big, jobs where, $200,000, $300,000. And around here, there's no other, you're not going to just pick up
you
another
get those twice a year.
Yeah, exactly.
So your role, are you actually going to the estimates at this point and doing sales that way? Okay, gotcha.
Yep.
Let me tell you what I did in my business, just because, again, talking systems, just want to share this with you because I also do, obviously what I'm doing now, the coaching and the, all that fun stuff. And then I'm starting a software company. So I have all these different things. So in the same way, you and I, we have our hands in a bunch of different things. So what I realized, and thanks to COVID, this gave me the freedom to do this. So I have, my 2 crews of 4, and then I have my supervisor at the top. Now I tried the salesperson route, and exactly what you're saying, dude. You were like, how do you justify that cost? Well, to give out 10% of your gross profit on a sale, it's unjustifiable if you're not doing over. I would think that the threshold for a full-time commission salesperson is between 1.2 and 1.5 million is where you would start that. Would you agree?
Yeah. Well, I mean, yes and no. I mean, but I think it's a good number.
It's a good number to hit.
Have, but it also depends on your size, your coverage.
It depends on the size and how many jobs that you need this person to hit. And what I was realizing when I did that was this person was going there and I was the one doing automation follow-ups. I was the one in the office closing the deal. Like if he didn't close it on the spot, if he wasn't closing that thing on the spot, then I would literally follow up with the customer, do my job as a closer on the phone. And then I'd text the guy and say, hey man, I just made you $600 while he's watching The Bachelor, in his, in his living room, you know what I'm saying? And it's like, dude, this isn't working. I have to come up with a different system to make this work for everyone. So I thought of like, okay, I have this one guy in my company. He's the most loyal guy. He's phenomenal, man. Just really loves the opportunity, and I promoted him to supervisor of the 2 crews. Now, what would you think 2 crews need to be supervised for 40 hours a week? They don't. But what he does is he's a painter, okay, but he's also a good people person, but he's not a salesperson, right? He's not going to sit there and handle objections, okay? He's going to go in there and answer all the technical questions that take a half an hour, 45 minutes. So what I do is I send him to the estimates and he funnels all the information to me in our little project manager thing. He takes pictures of all the jobs. And now I, in the office here, can do what I do best. And that is get on the phone when it's time to justify why that price is what it is. It's time to separate ourselves from the competition, because either way, there's people that are, going to need that additional after the sale. I mean, yes. Am I missing out on the ability to close on the spot? Sure. But it's freeing me. And that's kind of where I wanted to get with that, because it's working. I didn't think it could, but because of COVID, got a baby, I kind of wanted to kind of see what I could do to be creative. Virtual estimates, that came up. So that's kind of what I've done, and it's freed me. But yes, the sales are going to drop. Okay. Yes. The closing ratio is going to go down. But it's just a matter of, do you want that free time? So that's kind of what's been working for me.
A back up on that. Now, see, the same person, Taylor, I had him, he was the salesperson here. Okay. Well, first he started the other location. Long story short, I brought him over here. I said, okay, he can do it. But it's amazing the difference between you take somebody who is trying to grow something and learning to come into something that's fully running, a machine that's just like, man, you got to keep feeding it. And I think he was overwhelmed. Yeah. He went from having, 2 guys he was working with, in a starter location to having 12 or 14, whatever we had at the time. And we have 6 or 7 jobs going on at all times.
He's got to keep up with that volume.
So he was good at getting the jobs going and getting everybody moving, going to do the estimates, sending estimates out. He was getting jobs, but he forgot that you have to also be a self promoter. And if you're not out there also
Generating
selling
your own business.
then all of a sudden the curve, you're going here, then all of a sudden it's like it starts to gradually go down.
I
And
think
then
that
all of a
there's
sudden,
two roles.
yeah, you're looking at it's like November and you're like, we don't have that much work. And it's like, well, yeah, we should have been thinking about that in August.
Yeah,
You can't, you getting, and so sales and business, there's so many things that go on, but it's planning ahead. Like, I
agree.
don't like to have people who are only thinking about now. You got to be thinking way ahead so you could be successful.
Especially up north. And I think that that's two roles for sure. I think that you have this person that can go in and estimate and close. And if you're a
Yep.
volume company, even with 8 to 12 employees, that's a full-time job as it is, because you're doing
Yep.
4 to 5 estimates a day if
Oh,
you
yeah.
if you have the right marketing. And then there should be we called them BDC, business development something, and that was business development. So essentially, like, that's a networking role. And I thought about that too when I did hire a salesperson. I'm thinking, okay, I want this guy to go to BNI. I want him to get his name out there. I want him to be the face of the company. And I think I was asking too much of this one individual to not only balance that, but handle 4 to 5 estimates a day. And it was just a hard thing to figure out. And that's our job as business owners, is to create those parameters, pay those parameters accordingly. And I think even the same way we do this with painters, we would do it with salespeople, is gauge what type of pressure we're putting on people, like in proportion to what we're paying them. Because of course we could pay somebody double to do that.
Oh, yeah.
And they'll work 12 to 15 hours a day, but
Yeah.
we don't want to pay that,
No.
So
Yeah. I mean, there's pluses and minuses to everything that we do. Just like with the painters the painters especially is learning what their skill set is, and putting those people in their best position to be successful. It's the same thing with the sales or like the leader or the supervisor. You can't expect a guy who's really good at new construction all of a sudden walk into a historic house and be like, oh,
right.
I know what to do, and it's and that would be me as the owner, making a mistake by putting the wrong people on the wrong job. If it takes him twice as long to get that job done because he just wasn't really, it's not his specialty, then that's on me, not on him. I put him in a situation that didn't help him. So that gets into another category about how to manage the people.
Absolutely.
But for as far as the I remember one of the biggest things I was commenting, to sidetrack a little bit, was the marketing in the business. And I think this needs to be known.
Are you buying leads?
Not at all. Zero.
Really?
0.0.
And when you have somebody come in as a franchisee, you don't tell them to buy leads.
That's my biggest struggle, trying to convince people that you don't have to buy leads.
Well, what if they do run into an issue? And see, now we're getting gritty here, because I love it, because
we're going to agree to disagree on this one.
We could, and that's fine. And I like that, because I want both perspectives. I like this. So at the end of the day, right? So you pretty much outlined for me taking somebody from the bottom and throwing them at the top. Okay. Yep. We know that what you're giving them is the top in terms of a production system, really. But ultimately, you and I both know, if you have a booming production system and you pick it up and throw it into a random city or town and no one knows who you are, that's worthless. Yes.
But the key is to let everybody know who you are.
And so how do you, and good, let's go into that. So what is your strategy for picking up your franchise, plopping it into a city or a town, and getting that system moving as soon as possible without paying for leads? I really want to know this.
So the biggest thing with our model is we are more small market. Like, we're not looking to go into the middle of New York City and say like, hey, we're here. We want to be like in Brooklyn. You know what I mean? Or we want to be on the outskirts of wherever that is, and start in a small area. The way that our system works is more like guerrilla marketing. You're trying to be a big fish in a small pond really quickly. So, the biggest mistake that most painters make is like, they want to be covering 50 miles, from one area, from this side of Chicago to the east side of Chicago. And then they wonder why nobody calls them, because you're so spread out that nobody even knows who you are. So for us, like the number one thing that we get here, phone calls, oh, we see your signs everywhere. We see your vans everywhere. We see your guys at the store. We see, we just see you. And so the perception versus reality is they think we're painting everything, because you go up one road, you see a sign. You go up the other road, there's Richard's painting. Oh, you go over here, Richard's painting. And now, so it's ingrained in people's heads. And then, you get that going. Then you have your signs, you have your mailers that you send out, specific targeting. And we don't even pay for zip codes. We specifically go in and say, okay, we want you to take your area where you are in your territory and say, okay, go and look at these subdivisions or neighborhoods. We have a system where you can go right in, get addresses and specific streets.
What program are you using for that?
The Richard's painting program.
Okay.
It's really, we're developing that. But again, as well as I do, talking about software, it is very, very expensive to try to develop these things and even have somebody competent.
So you're essentially creating a proprietary mail bomb software
that's what we're trying to do. But it's not even that complicated. It's more about specific your targeting. It's more about targeting. It's not necessarily the system of finding the address. Because you can, like realtors have something very similar where they can just target very small areas. And so
let me ask you this. I get that, the guerrilla marketing and all that. Okay. So I'm getting all that. Okay.
Yes.
How long have you been in business?
I've been painting for over 20 years.
20 years.
But here I am. I've been in North Carolina for 13 years.
13 years. So these strategies that you're describing to me with the yard signs, with the vehicles, with the mailers, would you agree that all that worked 20 years ago?
Yeah.
Same deal, right?
Yes,
now, wait.
Go ahead. Let me hear.
Point, because we're having a small debate here because I love everything you're saying, and I think what you're saying has true value. And anyone listening to this, make sure you're paying attention to Richard, because what he's doing does work. It's obvious, but I have to make a point here. Do you think that 20 years ago, where there was virtually no internet, where that was the only way to buy, was word of mouth, was seeing signs, was seeing cars, okay? And the status quo that us contractors carry from the contractors before, who didn't have the fear of a bad review online and could just disappear without a trace if they stole a deposit. Do you think that's caused the mass market, not just go in here, just follow me, the mass market to buy differently than they did in years past? And by that, I mean by doing due diligence online. There was no Google 20 years ago. So obviously we know that as years go on, it's no longer about word of mouth. It's more, let me make my own judgment by doing my own research. The same way we are learning how to buy things on Amazon, 95% of us look at reviews. Even if our friend bought it and said, hey, you got to check this out, they say, hey, check it out and read the reviews. They tell you to read the reviews.
Yes.
So tell me, with a company focus, and I know you're very forward thinking. I think you did an interview, and one of the big things that you said is you're very forward thinking in the way that painting businesses is going. So for me to hear that you have no intentions on investing in paid ads, Google, Home Advisor, none of these
didn't say
things.
that.
Okay, we didn't go Google. Okay,
we didn't get that far.
Okay, so I just want your thoughts on, like, at some point, do you think this market who thrives off of yard signs and all that stuff, at one point, do you think that they're going to fade away when the new generation of homeowners comes in, where their new go-to is to do their own research and to find contractors on these resources that claim to give you a trusted contractor?
100%. Now, the reason I can talk about Home Advisor and those things is because I did use them at one point years ago, and I used Home Advisor when they were called Service Magic. So way before most people even knew what was going on with that industry, yes, I used them. So, and what I learned, the number one problem I have with those lead referral services is that you as we're the customer to them, but they also have two customers. They have the painter or the contractor, who they might be, and the customer that you're trying to acquire.
They always favor the client.
And it's a great service for the customer. I mean, for them, it's great. You go on, you get to people call you. Fantastic.
Absolutely. Good.
Now, do they know the back end? The back end of it, where you're paying $150 to go look at a house, and then you're hoping that maybe these people might call you back, and then you call to get a lead taken off. Like, oh, well, their number's correct, so they might call you in the future. I'm like, okay. So for me, I figured out also the biggest problem is that I feel like you have you're not only you're not helping yourself, you're also building up Home Advisor. The more money that we spend on Home Advisor, Thumbtack, whatever they are.
So what about? I know, and I like where you're going with that. Essentially, you're building your foundation on a platform that's out of your control. Correct. So essentially, but let me ask you this: what about Facebook? Because Facebook, in terms of marketing and ads and leads and things like that, is obviously it's Facebook, and Facebook owns Facebook and whatever comes with that. But my thought is that it's a lot more personal. They can look at your page, they can get to know you if you're really active on there and you have a strategy in terms of putting your face on there. Hey guys, it's Tanner with Premium Painting. We're out here painting this, and you're building relationships that way. Tell me your thoughts on that. What do you think about that?
I think, to step back a little bit, is the marketing approach that we use is a little bit of everything, not just the flyers or this or that. Yes, we do Google ads. Yes, I do Facebook posts, Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter. We do a little bit of everything. And I think that's the biggest key is just like I know you're doing some research, and you like to just do, residential houses because how that works. We do a lot of everything because, we do everything from schools to houses to mailboxes to driveways. And
that opens up the floodgates for you and your franchisee. And I think there's some confidence that comes along with that, because here's the thing: the reason I don't take a lot of things, I lack confidence in it. If you ask me to paint a school boys locker room and I need to use oil and all that stuff, I don't know how to do that. I don't want to know. I don't know how to price it. I don't know how to do it. And chances are my guys don't know how to do it. We haven't trained them to do it. It's not something that we get a lot of requests on. So it's like, for me, it's not so much that I just don't do it because I'm too good to do it. It's just we niche down. We have that system down pat. My guys know when they get at the job at 7:45, they better go up to the customer, introduce themselves, explain the process. Like that's how granular that I like to be in my own system. So when we throw out gym or a library or all these things that are, curveballs. Like I made the big mistake of painting a gas station once when I was early on. I didn't really think about it, just being young and saying yes to everything. I went in to go get a drink, and the manager comes up to me and says, "Hey, can you give us a bid?" What am I going to say? I'm young and
of course, you better say yes.
Say yes, right? So, next thing you know, I'm buying safety vests. I got cones blocking off the first row of cars. I didn't even think about the people walking in and out of it the whole day. I had to put someone down there to hey, 1 second, he's spraying. You're going to get, latex in your cup of Joe if you just
That's right.
walk out here, so all these variables, man, I'm like, that's not for me. So that's kind of where it comes from. Lack of confidence. So, but where I'm getting at is, if you are instructing your franchisees, hey, this is how we do this. This is how we do this, and putting together some sort of playbook, it does help. Even if you don't require them to follow it along the way, it's helpful to know that they can reach out to you for whatever reason.
100%. And one of the things, just like you want to manage your jobs, knowing what each job costs, knowing if you're making money, knowing if you're profitable. The same thing comes to your marketing. We do a marketing spreadsheet where we track every single phone call, where it comes from, what time of the year it is, and where if I'm spending money, is this going to the right place? So I'm not oblivious. So I can tell you, 3 years ago, we maybe got 10 phone calls related to the internet. 2 years ago, we got 50. This past year, we got 120.
So you see the upswing here of
definitely.
Right.
100%. So I'm
And
not,
that's good.
so that's no, and so that, and again, that's knowing your business, no, not knowing your numbers, but knowing, hey, you got to see where the trends are. Now, mind you, if we average on this location around, um, uh, oh boy, what happened?
There you go.
Oh, there we go. I thought I hit silent. Anyway, so we're getting about 400 phone calls a year for estimates here. Okay, and so I can tell you that the people who recommended, who saw signs,
I
who got a
love that.
flyer,
Isn't that
very
nice?
consistent.
Isn't that nice to just stand on top of that information and just like, be able to say, hey, this is what's what, man, that clarity as a business owner, that's what I preach a lot. I'm real big into job costing. I
Yes,
love job costing, man. I think that you can really build your business if you know your profit margins. Are you a fan of, I mean,
oh, definitely. I mean, you have to
okay.
be. How do you not how do you not want to know that? I mean, you can,
That's what I think.
it's like
I like,
it's like if you're doing, yeah, you might say you're making money every year, but
yeah,
how, where?
yeah,
I can look at every job and say, like this segment of the jobs are really profitable. So for me, I say, okay, a lot of jobs we do, we make a profit on almost every job, but the thing is, where do we make the most profit? And where can you maximize
you
that money?
negotiate your prices
Very rarely.
very rarely. If you really
Again,
need the job, if you really
no.
need the job,
But I'm already. Our estimating process is unique. Also, I'm
okay.
more. We try to use a system of, we don't use square footage. We use a day system where, okay, this house is going to take 20 days to paint. We have a number per day. Say it's
Perfect. Me
$350.
too.
It's you have your labor, but at the same time, I've gotten to the point in my life where I'm like, I just walk up to a house, 10 grand. Okay, now I'm saying 10 grand, and I'm like, okay, are they going to pay 75? They're going to pay 95. They're going to pay 12. What's that range? Do I think that they're willing to spend to have us come paint their house? I try
So
to be the
yeah,
controller in that.
right. But I will say, and from my own personal experience in sales,
Yeah.
it's natural to want to do that. But I've been surprised when I would put judgment on, like it's the saying that I say is don't spend for someone else. You don't know what some people portray that they don't have money, but when it comes, it's really just honestly what it comes down to is how much do they value a paint job? Like what
Yeah.
conditioning do they have that puts value on a paint job? Like if you have somebody that got their house painted 5 years ago, this is why one of my favorite questions in estimating is, have you ever hired a professional painting company
Sure.
before? Because I want to know who I'm up against. Because if you hired a painting company 5 years ago and it was one guy, and let's say it was your old house, same square footage, when I come in at 7 grand and that one guy charged you 3 grand, you're going to be wondering why there was a difference. And you're going to tell me, okay, we'll think about it. And then you're going to go to your husband and you're going to say, this guy's crazy. But ultimately, we have a totally different business model, totally different experience. So I spent a lot of time figuring that out,
Sure.
in terms of like who am I being compared to? Now, if you have somebody that had a poor experience, let's say it was a nightmare. I just got a picture from my office admin who sent me a text of somebody that hired somebody else because she winds up making friends with everybody, whether they hire us or not. She's like, oh my gosh, they hired this person. They did this. They should have hired us. And it's like, okay, well, the next time they value a high quality paint job way more than they did this time. So
Correct.
that's where I get at. It's like everyone has a different idea of like what painting is to them. And you and I probably both agree that the value and the emphasis on hiring a quality paint company is a lot higher on interiors than it is exteriors. It's a
Correct.
lot different when people are hanging out in your house versus outside. You don't have to worry about them, right?
You're 100% right. I mean,
Yeah.
it's, the all we're trying to say, like, I mean, I have supreme confidence in my ability, my guy's ability to do the
Yeah.
job, to do it correctly.
You
So
built it.
yeah, I don't even worry about if somebody, I mean, again, we're different. Like maybe 10 years ago, maybe would I follow up with people and be like, hey, how can we, I gave you an estimate. How's it going? Yeah, I know that whole procedure. We can do the same thing. But I gotten to the point now is like, I pretty much know as soon as I pull up to that job, if I'm even going to get it.
Well, so
And,
let me
and
ask you this, because
yeah,
but now let's transition from business owner in Richard's
go ahead.
Painting to franchise CEO.
Yes.
Dude, you got 10 years of experience, so you can look
Yes.
at my house and tell me exactly what I paid. You know, I
Correct.
know that. And I have that too. I mean, it doesn't take long. Probably takes
No.
about 2 years, to really, that's going to take 15 gallons. That's going to, we get that. You can't
Yep.
give that to somebody. So you got to have some estimating structure. What's that estimating structure that you teach?
So the estimating structure we teach is you again, starts with the acquiring the customer, and we have figured out that the way that we market single, we get to a certain type of customer, where these customers are not looking for just any guy to show up. The difference between the home advisor and the way we do it is like when you're competing against 5 other people. For us, a lot of these times we go do estimates, it's either me or like one other person. Okay, so now you've already established yourself as the leading painter in the area. So now your sales approach goes in, you're gonna now talk about the job. Hey, we're gonna, if you're walking in, you're gonna say, hey, look at the crack on the wall. We're gonna take care of that. Hey, we show up on time. You talk about how all the positives are. But at the same time, you want to let people know you're gonna undersell and over deliver. Because you have many painters who walk in and say, man, I'm gonna make this wall look like glass. And you're like, that's a really high expectation. Why would you do that?
Right.
So we try to teach people, hey, this wall is really bad. We're going to try to make it better, but I'm not sure if it's going to be perfect. And then when you finish it and it's way better than what you said it was going to be, you look like a hero. That's, so now the sales comes down to, at the very beginning, when you're starting out, it's always about price. You can't on your first day, you're not going to go and say, hey, I painted 300 houses and they all went really well.
Right.
You're going to be going in, you need to get work. So our structure changes as time changes. So at the very beginning, you're going to go in and you're going to start at a number that's going to be like, hey, we're going to paint this room for $500.
So right. It's based on, and I love it because that's the best way to do it. When your company grows, your prices go up. So you need to be pricing marginally instead of like set pricing, fixed pricing, because it's going to change. Like,
correct.
And for me, like I did a business breakthrough with somebody. It was just him by himself. And I said, well, what do you value your labor at? Right. Yep. And he was like, oh, well, $30 an hour. I said, all right, well, I'm going to value it 20 because you're working inside your business. So if you work for 40 hours a week, that's $800, right? So if you find a job that you're putting 5 days on, at the bare minimum, the labor cost is $800. Now factor in the paint. Let's say it's $400 or whatever, whatever analogy I gave. So that's $1,200. So if you're looking for a 50% margin, that's a $2,400 job. Okay.
Correct.
Now, if you hire 3 more people, that first number, that 800 turns to, let's say, $2,000. The paint's not going to change. So that's 2,400. Now, if you're trying to hit that margin, now we're at 4,800. You see how the price changes as you grow. And that's exactly what you're describing to me. And I think the simple pricing metric, and I'm not surprised. I just think that's really good at your stage, your level, that you're adopting that, because I think I will put you in the category of an old school painter, man. You got 20 years. Okay. These guys love to 95% of the time is spent calculating the price, and one guy's measuring the crack to see how long it's going to fill. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yes.
I mean, what are we doing? What are we doing here?
I mean, more recently in my time of estimating, I've noticed in the last 2 or 3 years, people say, hey, do you need to measure this room? Do you need to know the size of the room? I'm like, listen,
it's me on that all the time. You need to measure. No, I just Zillowed you.
Listen, I'm like this. I'm like, look, I've done this once or twice before. I hope I know what I'm doing by now. Yeah. I said, if I need a tape measure, we're in trouble.
Yeah. They all
and I try to use that also in my sales tactic and teach this to other people. When somebody says that, say, hey, to me, I just want to let you know that if somebody's bringing a tape measure out, do you think that they know how to paint this room? Or is it the tape measure telling them how much it costs? Right. If they don't know, that this room here is going to take 3 gallons of paint, it's going to take them 2 days. Well, they probably never painted a day in their life. Yeah. So how do you?
I'm guilty.
I use that.
I'm guilty.
I use that against them.
Yeah,
exactly. So you're trying to separate yourself.
Yeah, separate yourself. And I said, I'm guilty. I was a tape measure warrior. I had the tape measure on my belt, dude. I had that thing. I hopped out of the car. Holy smokes, man. I was so green, dude. And I'm writing down each, and I'm sitting there calculating it. I'm sweating, because picture the scenario. You got someone just moving into their house. They're
Yep.
standing, they got nowhere to relax. So I'm running around with this tape measure. I mean, I'm stretching this thing 40 feet from and I'm like, what am I doing? So I was like, I should just start Googling the addresses and looking up the square footage. These people don't care. I didn't even wind up telling them how much I measured. They just wanted to know
Oh
the
yeah.
price. So from there, I was like, all right, well, I won't do that anymore.
But hey, but that's how you learn. I mean,
How you learn.
I tell the guys, painters, sales, franchisees, you learn by making mistakes.
So if a
That's
franchisee
the
wants
best.
to, I love that. And let me ask you this: if a franchisee, let's say I bought Richard's painting franchise, okay, and I say,
Yes.
I text him like, Richard, I want to buy some leads. Am I allowed to?
Yes, but again, it defeats the whole purpose of what we're trying to accomplish.
Gotcha.
The when you're going to go buy leads, you are now saying, okay, I'm going to take my budget. I mean, just an example, my location here, and I think you might cringe, but I spend $75 a month on Google Ads. Okay, generating about 115, 120 leads a year.
Great.
Okay, so and of those leads, I've gotten about 50%
You
of
guys have
those
the most
jobs.
reviews in your area?
I have a lot. Yeah, not my area. We got about 50.
Okay.
And what's really changed is the website. So well, I shouldn't say the website, but leading all our ads lead them right to the website. Right
Gotcha.
to the fill out the form, and we have gotten. We went from 0 3 years ago to over 100 between the locations of online leads. More and more. People at 10 o'clock at night on a Saturday, just, oh, here comes one, here comes one. And so that has really changed a lot also. So I've noticed that, and I've really dictated our ads towards making sure people go directly to the site to fill out that form. And you'll be surprised how much people, like at 10 o'clock at night when I respond, like, hey, thanks for reaching out for an estimate. Our office is closed, but Ginger will get back to you in the morning. They're like, wow, I can't believe you responded at 10 o'clock at night.
Yeah. That's
And they
cool, man.
really
That's
love it.
great. I
But as
think
far as the leads go, it really defeats the whole purpose. If you want to spend that kind of money on those leads, well, the return, you have to sell those jobs. And we want to make it where I don't want you to be pressured to sell that job every single time, because when you do that, the price starts to go like this.
right,
The
or the
more
prop.
pressure you feel to sell that job, the
Yeah.
lower and lower and lower that job gets. So I want you to have the confidence to go in there, present yourself in a way that looks professional. And you're selling yourself as much as you are selling the painting, and then you're going to win that customer because of what you're saying. And again, you're not now competing with 5 other people who are in the same position you're in. They're all like saying to themselves, I got to get this job. I have to get this job. I just spent $120 on this lead.
I will say that obviously you're successful. What I have done is work too. So there's
Yes.
no, I
No,
believe
no,
there's
I
no
agree.
right answer, but
Oh,
I
yeah.
will say that following up in any sales interaction will increase sales. It's just like you said, it's a matter of how bad you need the job. I am very, very adamant about following up. Following up to me is so, I mean, I bought this house 2 years ago. I've had probably 4 different contractor experiences. Okay. All of them. Getting in touch with these people, even people that I've vetted as a contractor and looked online and read the
Yeah.
review. I mean, there's just no structure, no sequence. You know how much of a difference maker it would if the granite guy just, hey, I just wanted to just double check to see if you got that quote. You know,
Yeah. Yeah.
wow, what? Really? I mean, I can't even get the other guy to call me back. I had a question. So to me, does following up need to come across as desperate? No, it doesn't. I think that the way that I approach follow-ups come across as this is just extra time that I have to build a greater relationship and build more value, because it just really depends on what your follow-ups, the substance of the follow-ups. For me, it would be, hey, do you have any questions? And then I would maybe send an email that has a video of my team. The next email or text message would be, hey, I just want to let you know we're thinking about you. Do you have any other questions? Did something come up? Or can we offer you a free color consultation? Like, so is there value in the follow-ups, or are you just saying, hey, I really need the work, I'll drop the price of $500 if you do it today,
Yep.
So there's some differences there. My friend, we are out of time. Dude, great conversation, man. I would love to
Fantastic.
have you back on here. If
Love
you'd
to.
be willing to come by, man. It was fun. I think, dude, this is one of the most valuable conversations we're going to have so far in this podcast, man. And best of luck to you, your franchise. And I love your approach, man. I think that if you can eliminate paid leads, do it. If you have a system that works, do it. Save that money, invest it in paying your guys more. Look, I wouldn't pay for leads if the phone kept ringing. I'm not stupid, but it's just a matter of what that approach is, man. So thank you for
Hey,
sharing that.
I'd love to challenge you to try to for 2 months to do a little bit something different, and you tell me if it works or it doesn't. I love our next conversation to be, hey,
that next conversation,
we'll try
talk about a strategy, because I think
work?
that I can learn a lot. I can, and I'm not ignorant to taking on something that's working. That's one thing about me, is that I see that sign behind you. If I showed you my yard sign, it wouldn't hold a candle to yours. So I might have to get your sign guy.
Simplicity, my man. Simplicity,
man. And that's what it does. I love it, man. Thank you for your time, brother.
Thank you. Take care.
Hey, so.
Hey, I just want to take a second to thank you for joining me here on the Contractor Secrets podcast. I'm just going to take this opportunity to let you know that my passion is coaching people, helping people. I've changed my Instagram name to @contractorcoach, and I did that because that is my passion. I want to help you. So please reach out to me. If you have an issue going on in your business, send me an email. Find me on Instagram, message me, and let's do a breakthrough session. I want to work through your problems in your business to help you get to that next level. And one thing that I always say is this, the difference between those that get over the humps and the hurdles in business is just a change in perspective. And that's what I plan to offer you. So get with me, message me, allow me to help you take your business to the next level.